and the acceptance of destinies to make firm establish. So my guests and I bring you messages to establish what you need to know in the present. And also, I like working with angels and the calmness they bring. Now, in a moment, I will introduce you to my wonderful guest, Michelle Sandys. But before that, I'd like to say thank you for watching this show live at a later date, as it means a lot to me to connect with like-minded women. Now, if you've never met me before, then my name is Rae, and I love to help women to crossroads in their life, heal their past, create their future, and transform their present, so they can take charge of their destiny in the here and now. I'm the founder of Radiant Angel Energy, and I use future life progression, past life regression, angelic Reiki, guided meditation, angel oracle cards, and hypnosis to help women who feel lost get clear on their reason for being here. And I've also created a transformational journey to help you take charge of your destiny and a journey through lifetimes. Now, each episode of this show normally covers various themes of your journey, a mini guided meditation and angel oracle card reading with the wisdom of wonderful guests. But this week, Michelle Sandys and I are going to continue our previous conversation from when the show cut off, just as we were getting into paranormal investigations that Michelle does. So we thought that the spirits probably wanted their own show and not share it. So we're giving this show over to them today. Now, Michelle Sandys is not only a HR consultant, with a business called As If by Magic HR Services, which we discussed on the previous show, but also with her partner, Nigel Wood. They run their own company, No Drama Paranormal Investigations, NDPI. Now, not only do they investigate haunted places, but Nigel also makes his own spirit detecting equipment. So if you've ever wanted to find out more about paranormal investigation or ask questions, then today's the chance to do that. And of course, there is going to be no Zach or any other ghost hunters making an appearance and screaming and yelling like little girls. So without further delay, hello, Michelle, and welcome to the Angels of Destiny show. How are you today?
Hello, Rae. Yes, I'm very well. Thank you for asking. Yes, it's great to be back. And let's hope that Spirit this time realizes they've got their own show and doesn't get jealous and cut us off like they did previously. I couldn't believe that happened.
That was so funny the way that happened. Really was.
Yeah, yeah.
So before we get into this fascinating conversation, I want to remind you that you not only can share this show, but you can also ask questions, leave comments and thoughts, as both Michelle and I want you to be part of this conversation. So please don't be shy. So Michelle, why don't you tell us about your journey into paranormal investigations, the instruments you use, and why no drama, just paranormal investigation?
So shall we go with that first?
Why not?
I think we came up with the name. We wanted something a little bit different, but we also wanted to put across our reasons and our ethos for starting the group. Now, I expect a lot of you that are watching have watched programs like Most Haunted and Ghost Adventures and all those sort of programs that are on the TV. And we started out, when we first started doing investigations, we were really quite naive about things, I think. And we used to watch all those programs and take them as genuine and completely believed everything that was happening. And over the course of the last few years, we've met a few people who've been involved in the industry and who have worked with various programs and various other investigators. And we also got to a point where we were a little bit tired of lots of screaming going on, and as soon as something started happening in some of the programs, it was, oh God, did you hear that? Did you hear that? And then suddenly they're out the room and they've run out, and you think, well, no, surely the whole idea of paranormal investigations is when things start to happen, that's when you get excited, and that's when you stay put and you start investigating proper and finding out what's going on. You don't dive out the room and run down the stairs screaming outside. So that started to get a bit annoying. Yeah, the screaming's usually the men, Keith. Yeah.
Totally.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and unless of course we ever get fielding.
Yes, that was, she's probably leads the pack in that respect, I think. Yeah, bless her. But that's why we called it No Drama. We were fed up with the drama, we were fed up with the screaming, and you find, when you have these TV programs, because they are an entertainment show at the very crux of them, they have to have something happen, don't they? You
Yeah.
can't have an hour of a program without anything happening. Whereas most paranormal investigators will tell you, you can sit in a venue for 8 hours sometimes, and you might hear the odd thud, or the odd noise, or the odd squeak that you can't explain. But very rarely do you have as much happen in that time that you're at a venue as you see on a TV screen. It just doesn't happen. It's that's all done for the drama. That's what we said. So we are no drama. Take it as it is. If things happen, they happen. If they don't, they don't. That's just the way it goes sometimes. So that's where the name came from.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Um, yeah, well, we like to think so.
Yeah. So how did you get into it?
I suppose I've always had an interest in it. I think my grandmother on my maternal side, and my aunt, her sister, they were very much into the spiritual side of life. My great aunt, often saw spirit, although she didn't really talk about it an awful lot. But my mum has always seen spirit, and I've kind of grown up with it being normal. It's not something that I've been particularly afraid of, and I just thought it was quite the normal thing to be able to do. And I was a bit disappointed that I couldn't do it myself, and I wasn't seeing anything or hearing anything. But I think that was probably because I had lower vibrations. I've learned now how to raise my vibrations, and I think that's the way that you can tune into the frequencies that spirit uses. So having learned that, that's when I then started to really look at whether it was paranormal investigations was something that I wanted to do, or whether it would scare me. Because, like I say, when I first started watching the programs, it was something that I'd watch quite dubiously and think, oh God, I don't think I could do that. I couldn't go into a dark room. I couldn't do that on my own. I wouldn't want to see something that would scare me. And I think that probably blocks you. That's when you've got lower vibrations, and that blocks you from actually communicating or seeing anything. But as I started to realize that I could raise my vibrations, and I was really wanting to know what was going on. So we did decide. Well, I met Nigel. That's the thing. I met Nigel, and between us, we had this interest. And so we said, okay, well, why don't we do it? Why don't we go along to a paranormal investigation and see what it's all about? So that was about 12 years ago, I think. And we went to the Black Horse at Pembury. Not at Pembury, Pluckley. Obviously, we thought, well, it's supposed to be the most haunted village in Kent, if not the UK, so they claim. So, if you're going to see anything,
Yeah.
chances are you'll see it there. So we went along, and yeah, we didn't see a huge amount of things happening. I think we had a psychic there who was helping to facilitate things, and I think we both found that that was a little bit over the top, and we weren't entirely sure whether that was genuine. And there was a girl who was doing using a glass on the table, and she claimed that she was communicating with somebody, and Nigel got involved with that, and he was asking some questions, but the answers that were coming back made us think, no, this isn't the person that the spirit is claiming to be. This is something mischievous going on here. So we came away from it a little bit disappointed, I think, but
Mm.
also we'd had our interests peaked a bit more. So we thought, okay, I think there is something in this. So let's investigate this a bit more, and let's start doing our own thing. So I've not really got into the gadget side of things, whereas Nigel's really into the gadgets, and we've watched a lot of the TV programs, we've seen what they use. He's done an awful lot of research into what's out there and how they work, so that we've automatically put aside some gadgets because we can't understand how they are working and how they can possibly be genuine. Um, there's something called an ovilus that a lot of paranormal investigators
Mm,
tend to use. And at first we had that and we thought that was a really good bit of equipment. But having researched it, Nigel actually went to the makers and said, how do you decide on the database? Because you have to have a database of words in there. So how do you decide on the database of words that goes in there? And how do you test it? What sort of control measures have you got in place? And we didn't get an answer particularly that we found really answered the question. It was
yeah.
very vague and it was avoiding it. Um, so we then went back and started looking at some of the programs and some of the people on TV that use the ovilus, and you kind of come to the conclusion that the database can be manipulated.
Right.
So if they are using an ovilus in a particular venue, the database can be manipulated to put words in that are going to be relevant to that particular venue. So when you get these words come out and you're watching on the telly and you go, oh my God, that was so contextual, that how can that possibly have come out? Well, chances are it was put in there in the first place. So that's where his interest in the gadget side of things has come from, is trying to get to the bottom of it, trying to find what is genuine. And that's also the no drama side of things, is
Yeah.
we're not in it for fame and fortune. We're not in it to get ourselves known. Yeah, exactly, Graham, just making money. Exactly. So we're not in it for that. We're in it genuinely because we want to know what's out there. We want to know how our energy carries on. We want to know how that energy can communicate with us, because we're both 100% sure that it does. Absolutely
Yeah.
100% sure, but it's the science side of it as much as anything, and it's trying to find that bit of evidence where you can put it in front of non-believers or people that just look at you a bit like you're mad when you tell them what you do, so that they can say, well, I can't refute that, I can't explain that away. It's that little nugget, isn't it, that I think we're all
Yeah.
after, to be able to prove to people life goes on, energy goes on. That's not the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that's a pretty good way of wanting to go into to do that. And obviously we've got Carla here who's watching, who said hello earlier, and then
Hi,
obviously
Carla.
we've got Graham as well,
Hi,
and we've got
Graham.
Keith. So we've got a couple of mediums here as well,
Brilliant.
and of course Nigel's watching.
Yeah.
Hi, Nigel, whose hand I
Yes.
saw earlier.
Yes. Yes.
Um, yeah, yeah, um, yeah. So yeah, Graham says, "I'm glad to know you're genuinely interested in connecting with spirit, which is the really something that, yeah, you kind of like think on these TV programs that they're just not really interested
Yeah.
in it, because they kind of like that, and then they won't follow up. They'll go,
Yeah.
the spirit said blah blah blah, but then they don't follow up as to what happened afterwards. Or
Yeah. That really annoys us. I mean, Nigel always says, they've started a conversation, but they always ask the same questions. What's your name? What's the date? How long you've been dead? Sort of thing. But they don't really delve into it. And there are so many questions that you would want to ask spirit if you could have a proper conversation with them. So many questions you want to ask about, where are you? How is what format is your energy? How can you communicate? What's the best way for you to communicate? What can we do to facilitate that? And they never ask anything like that, and they never go into depth with anything like that. And it does get really frustrating when you're watching some of those programs, I think.
yeah,
And I see Graham's put evidential
yeah,
mediumship is relevant with paranormal investigation. Yeah, absolutely, Graham. And when we go to any of these events, we like to try and have a medium with us, because what comes through on the equipment that Nigel makes a lot of the time is contextual to what the medium is also sensing and is finding out. Um, so we like to try and do it on a control basis as well, as much as we can, so that so you haven't got the medium in the room at the same time as the portal is giving a message. But if you find that the portal has said something and then the medium corroborates that a bit later on, then you suddenly you've got these two bits of evidence that join together, and that's really, I find that really exciting, and I think that's something that they're missing a trick on these television programs of doing that. I mean, when you look at Most Haunted, when they used to have people like Derek Acora on and David Wells and people like that, I found that the program was much more interesting because,
Yes.
when you looked at the history and everything that went with the venue as well now, whereas I find now that it's more focused on the personalities that are on the program than it is on the actual investigations, in
Yes.
my opinion. But
Yeah.
that's just me, and I should probably button my mouth a bit and not say things like that.
Hey, why not? Well, as
Yeah.
Graham says, they're probably scared for an answer.
Do you know what, Graham? I think you're right. I think half the time that's the problem, that they're not genuinely open to what they could find out. You know, they
But
and
they're
they're having to
technically
make a lot.
presenters in the end, aren't they? That's really what they are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they've also got a business to run. They do events, so it's in their interest to have things happen, isn't it? And
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
exactly. So where are some of the places you've been, and what have you found?
Yeah, we've done a few now. I suppose what are our favourites? Worcester Mansion is one of the current favourites because we've been there a couple of times only, and
Where's that?
we were just getting into that's in Gloucester, just outside Stroud, and it's a big Gothic pile that sits on its own, and it's on its own estate, and you have to go about a mile and a half down this sort of dirt track to get to it. So there's nothing that can pass by it by accident. You have to know where it is, and you have to go there on purpose to find it. um, and it's unfinished. I think that the chap that was having it built, that was in 18 something. I think if Chris was on here, he'd put me right. Chris Howley was he looks after the place there and runs the events for them. But the chap ran out of money. Basically, he had a lot of things happen in his family, a lot of tragedies that happened around about the same time. There were a couple of people that were in the construction team that were killed in accidents whilst it was being constructed. And when he ran out of money, that it just stopped. So it's half built. It's got floors missing, but it's an amazing building. It's just a little labyrinth of rooms. It's got a big cellar as well, where there's quite a lot of activity goes on down there, and they actually have bats that roost there as well, which is quite sweet. And we've only been there twice, like I say, but we've had some really good results there. The first time that we were there, we were in the ballroom, and there were only 4 of us left. There was myself and Nigel and Kendall Percy, who's a medium, and Chris Howley, who organises the events. So there were the 4 of us in the ballroom, which is a really big room. All the chairs are all pushed back to the side, so you've got room to set up. We set up a table with the portal on it, and the Negeli or Negeli Wheel, which is I can't think what it's a bio device, so it measures your energy. So you put your hands around it and it spins round. I think you might be aware of something like that. But we found that you can actually ask spirit. You can ask them to move it one way and it'll move one way. It'll spin one way, and you can say stop and it'll stop, and they'll move it back the other way for you. So we've kind of manipulated one of those devices to be able to use it as a communication device as well. So we had the portal and the Negeli Wheel going, and Kendall said, I think this was about 12:30, 1:45 in the morning, and she said they want us to leave. They want us to go out of the ballroom. So we said, okay, we'll do that then. She says 1:55. We've got to leave at 1:55. That's what they're telling us. So dutifully, at 1:55 in the morning, the 4 of us left the ballroom and went to the staircase and stood on the staircase for 5 minutes. Well, we could hear in the ballroom that there were conversations going along across the portal, and the Negeli Wheel was spinning really rapidly whilst there was nobody in the ballroom at all. Now, nothing happened to us whilst we were on the staircase, and we decided, oh, they've been mischievous, you know, they've got us out of the room for no reason. So we went back in. We didn't review what we'd actually recorded whilst we were there until we'd left the building, and we reviewed it the following day. But when we reviewed it, you can hear them saying they're coming back. They're coming back. When you can hear our footsteps approaching, you can hear spirit saying over the portal, they're coming back, which was quite amazing. And as we were packing up that night, we always thank spirit, and we always thank them for being there and say thank you and goodbye. And we had thank you and goodbye come over the portal, clear as day, absolutely clear
Wow.
as day. So that's now a favourite venue for us. And I think the second time we were there, not an awful lot happened. But as we were leaving, we were in the car park saying goodbye to everybody. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I just happened to glance at the building, and the lights are the sort that you turn them off, but they stay on for a few minutes so that you
Yeah.
can make sure everybody's out. Somebody walked from one side of the window across to the other side of the window. And I said to Chris, somebody's still in the room. There's somebody in the building. Is it the caretaker? No, caretaker's fast asleep over in the other wing. So I said, well, somebody has just walked from that side of the window to the other side of the window, clear as day to me. And when I told him what window it was, he said, yep. If anybody's going to see anybody walking past the window, that's the one they see. So, definite shadow figure walked past there. So that's our current favourite, I think.
Cool.
We've done... I think probably the other favourite would be Mary King's Close in Edinburgh,
Okay.
which is I don't know if you're aware, if anybody watching is aware of where that is and have been there themselves, but basically they built over the streets that were originally there. So you
Okay.
actually go underground and you can go down the streets, and there are still the buildings that existed. And there was one particular house that belonged to a carpenter, Andrew Chesney, and he was the last person to leave. He didn't want to leave when they were turfing everybody out and redeveloping that area. And he's still there. He is definitely still there. Yeah, he's, I think we stood at the entrance. I didn't actually see this happen because I had a real headache, a real nasty pounding headache, and felt sick whilst I was down there, which, obviously I was picking up on something. But Nigel stood in the doorway and asked if they could throw something, and a bit of stone came out of nowhere. There was no staircases, there's no hidden corners, so there was nobody standing there doing anything, and a bit of stone flew across the room straight at him. And the guide that we were with went white and said, "I think we'll move on now, thank you." Yeah, so that was quite amusing. But we actually went back there 2 nights later. We went back because I wanted to have a look around the souvenir shop, as you do.
Yep.
And we said, has anything happened in the last 2 days since we were here? And the girl at the counter said, well, actually, yes. She said, last night, chap that's worked here for 20 odd years, has never seen anything, complete cynic, doesn't believe in ghosts, doesn't believe in spirit, doesn't think all that happens, He went down to turn off all the lights once the place was closing up. And she said he ran out again very quickly. And he'd been in the main street. And as he was about to turn the lights off, he was aware of a plague doctor walking up the main street towards him. Now, I don't know if you know the plague doctors with their big noses and the hoods and everything. I mean, if you want a Doctor Who character to scare people, that's the
Exactly.
sort of thing you have, isn't it? Yeah. So, after 20 years of working there, he saw a plague doctor walking up the road towards him, and he was out of there. So,
Oh, that's
yeah.
amazing. And
Yeah.
Graham says that he did mediumship at Edinburgh, course called Balblule House. Historic artifacts went to the museum.
Oh, right. I don't know that one.
Which is why Graham, and then you mentioned about Edinburgh, which is why Graham said I felt it important, hence my statement.
Oh, so you said that before I mentioned Edinburgh, Graham. Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah,
Well done, you.
yeah, and in fact, Graham actually knows that place as well.
Yeah, it's definitely on the tourist track. If you're interested in the paranormal, you got to go there. Nidri Street as well, Blair Street, and the Mackenzie Poltergeist at the Greyfriars graveyard as well. That's supposed to be quite good, but we didn't actually make it to there yet, so we need to go back to Edinburgh and do a bit more investigating. I think definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've visited Greyfriars, didn't see anything, or didn't pick anything up. But it
No,
might have been the
no,
time of day I went. Who knows?
could be, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And Nigel says, yes, Edinburgh is one spooky place.
Yes, yes. Well, now you see, when we went to Edinburgh, that was quite early on in our relationship, so we were still learning about everything paranormal. So we didn't have any particular equipment with us. But now Nigel's got all this equipment, and the portal that he's made as well. I think Edinburgh needs to be the next place that we go and try things out.
Definitely, definitely. And Graham says, has anything personally happened to you, Michelle, whilst you've been doing the investigations?
um, let me think. Do you know, it's probably not during the investigations that I've had anything personally happen to me. It was actually when I lived at my previous flat. And that was built in 1750 something, I think. And at one stage, it was a mental asylum. And my flat was actually on the top floor on the corner section, which was apparently where the nurses used to live. But also, they used to have just gentlemen were in that particular building, and there were ladies in another asylum building just along the road, which actually burnt down. Um, so when I first moved in there, I saw an awful lot of blue lights in my bedroom sparkling around, which I actually found very comforting, and I felt that that was actually spirit looking after me
Yeah.
and welcoming me to the property. Within the first week of being there, I heard a woman crying, and when I told her everything was all right and to please stop crying, it stopped, and I never heard it again. Um, I had a couple of moments when I saw doors in walls that weren't actually there. And that was usually during sort of the waking state, which I think,
Yeah.
a lot of people see things during that state, don't they? Because your brain waves are at a different frequency. And
Yeah.
I think that helps you to tune in a lot of the time. So I saw doors that weren't supposed to be there. I saw a gentleman at the end of my bed one day with a blackboard, and he was writing something on the blackboard like he was teaching something. And I got the impression that he was the doctor that used to live there. Um, and when we got together and he used to stay with me some weekends, there were a couple of times when, one particular time when I was half awake and I was aware of him saying, "Shell, can you see on the wall? Can you see the numbers?" Oh, yes, I can. And there were digital numbers on the bedroom wall. Absolutely no
Oh,
idea why. And we also saw um, what we think it must have been a portal because it looked like a nebula pattern. You know, the nebulas that you see, cosmic gases and clouds and everything, don't you? All
mm.
different colors. And we both saw that on the wall at the same time as well. So we kind of thought because of all the activity that seemed to resonate and come from that particular room, that might have been some sort of spirit portal. Um, I had the bed shaken once, but I did ask for it. I asked for a sign from somebody to let me know that I was
Yeah.
on the right track with something, and I woke up and the bed was shaking, and I said, "Okay, I got it. I got the message. Thank you. You can stop now," and it stopped. But Nige actually had it happen to him one Saturday morning when I'd gone out shopping with my mum, and he was left in the flat, and he woke up and was aware that somebody was actually basically sitting on his chest and had their hands on his shoulders and were shaking him violently in the bed. And he said he didn't want to open his eyes. He didn't want to see what it was, but he just said, "Okay, okay, thank you. That's enough now." And again, it stopped. So I had the opportunity of getting somebody to actually have a look at the flat and to find out what was going on for me on a spiritual side of things. Um, and the chap picked up on the fact that it used to be an asylum, and he said, I get the feeling that it was an old man who was a resident in the asylum. He said, I'm getting the name Sam. I want to call him Old Sam. He was probably in his late 70s. And he protects the lady that lives there. He said he protects the lady. And when he saw that the lady wasn't in the bed, it annoyed him. So that's why he was bouncing up and down on Nigel and shaking him, because he didn't want him to be there. He wanted the lady there, which was obviously myself. So when we looked into it, we actually found the sensor records for the house when it was an asylum, and there was an elderly resident there called Sam, who more than likely lived on the top floor there. So yeah,
Wow.
that's probably the closest I've come to actually connecting with spirit on a personal basis. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And Graham says recognition is allowing them to move towards the light.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that, Graham. That's lovely, because I always say to people, if you do come across any spirit, and you're not somebody that actually wants it to happen, but it does happen anyway, just acknowledge, because most of the time that's all they want, isn't it? Is an acknowledgement that they're there, just for you to say, okay, I hear you. Thank you for communicating. So that's
Yeah.
nice to know if they're moving towards the light when you recognise that. That's great.
Yeah, and as Graham says, those walls are they would have been made of old stones and rocks, and the memory stays better than man-made
Absolutely.
materials for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and Graham says thank you very much, Michelle, because obviously that's how Graham works. He'll always ask
Mm.
the spirit, "Do you want to move on, or do you want to stay?" Giving them the choice rather
Yeah.
than us making the decision for them. We want to keep
Yeah.
you here because this place is now haunted. Type.
That's it. Yes. Yeah. Can you imagine how many venues that make money out of people investigating would get really cross if you actually made them all move on?
Yeah, but you ought to give them a choice, because some will stay, some will go,
Yeah.
actually, I quite like being here doing this.
Yes.
But it's nice. It's nice to give them a chance and the opportunity.
Mm.
So
Mm.
you mentioned a couple of bits of equipment that you use, and that. Does Nigel want to show them to us?
He might do. Nige, are you there? Do you want to show us a bit of the equipment? Perhaps the portal might be quite a good one, or the Negeli Wheel. Just waiting to see if he's heard me.
Well, he's watching the show.
You rang, my lady?
Oh yes, you rang, my lady. He says yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can hear him.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to show the portal and the Eagly Wheel, perhaps?
Can do.
Yeah.
Can do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
excellent.
the portal is, he actually makes those for people as well. So he's made quite a few for other paranormal investigators and for other groups as well. I think he's had a couple go over to Ireland, actually, haven't you? The portals, you've sold a couple to
Yeah,
Irish paranormal groups.
Yeah,
Mm.
I've let them go to. I've sold them on to various groups all across the UK,
Yeah.
Ireland, Wales, Scotland, you name it, really.
They're quite. He's on his way, Graham. He's not shy, honestly. he's just finding the equipment amongst all the boxes. He's just moved in with me, so we have boxes and clothes and goodness knows what everywhere. It's I've only got a small flat, and we're tripping over each other. So
You certainly are.
it's I think all the paranormal equipment's currently on the beds. No, he hasn't run off. He hasn't run off. It's got it here. So yeah,
Yeah.
if we can see this, don't know
Yep.
if you
Okay,
can.
I won't put my ugly mug in here because that will turn everyone off. Okay, so I'm not quite sure what
Oh,
That's
we
it.
can show here. Okay, so this is
yep.
what we call a portal device, and basically what it does, it enhances the signal that comes from what we call spirit box radios. Now, people would have seen these on TV, perhaps, and here's a good example. It's one that people tend to use quite a lot. It's called the PSB7, and what it does is the theory goes that spirit or whatever we are communicating with, we assume it's spirit. We'll call them entities. They are communicating via the airwaves. So what you have is a radio which sweeps at a very fast rate up and down the wave bands, and what's kind of happening, the faster it goes, the less likely you are to have um, any speech come through from the normal radio stations. So if you were to slowly go through the wave bands, you would hear snippets of radio, snippets of speech, other bits which should be there. Okay. Now, what the radio does is it basically um, uh, scans through the wavelengths at a faster rate. So all that you're going to get is little snippets of words, snippets of sounds, etc. And the idea is that the entities, spirits, whatever you want to call them, are either reusing the sounds that are coming from the radio or across the airwaves in order to form their own words. Now, generally, they are very short words. They're like yes, no, maybe, maybe an age, maybe a number. That's what you're likely to get. Now, when you're using this kind of technology, um, the idea is to get answers or speech coming from the devices that has context to what you're asking or what you're talking about in the moment.
Mm.
If it's not contextual, then you have to kind of assume that either their timing is out with yours, perhaps. So perhaps they're responding to something that you've said previously, or it's just natural speech or sounds that are coming from the airwaves at the time. Now, for example, if you were trying to contact with a dead celebrity, and there are plenty of people out there,
lots of them do, yes,
at a time when they've just passed on and their name is all over the airwaves, the chances are, if you call out and say, is Elvis out there, then there's a much more increased likelihood that the name Elvis is going to come through at some point if you ask the question enough times repeatedly.
Yeah.
If you were to ask the question across it's out to the ether 10 years later and you say, is Elvis there, and Elvis, the word is repeated, then the chances of that coming across the airwaves in that moment are going to be far more diminished, far less likely. So what you're doing is, let's say the radio is scanning through at breakneck speed, which, depending on the device, you can alter the rate or the speed that it does the scanning, and some speeds work better than others, depending on what you're communicating with. But generally, you're asking out and looking for contextual words or responses to come back. So, for example, my name Nigel is not a common name. Yeah, it's not the most common name. Let's try and get down here, shall we, without breaking the knees. No, you can't see me. That's me. Yeah, hello.
Hello.
So yes, so if I call out to spirit and say, my name is Nigel, please can you repeat my name? And within a moment or two, the name Nigel comes back off through the device, then you've got to take that pretty seriously.
Yeah.
If you ask them to repeat it again and it comes through, then you're kind of getting somewhere. And that's my passion, is the actual communication side of things, because I want to know who and what I'm communicating with and how I can try and improve how to do that. And the problem is, quite often you only get these fleeting opportunities to actually communicate. A lot of the time, you don't know if you're communicating with the same person multiple times, or if there are multiple spirits coming through. So I find it fascinating. We had, generally speaking, all you'll get is very, very short responses. Yeses and nos, that kind of thing. But there's a location near to where I was previously living, It's called the Old Gentleman's Club, and it's in Englefield Green in Surrey. And it's only recently been opened up to paranormal events. Now, been there a couple of times. Michelle's been there once, and had a number of things, really interesting things, happen at this particular venue. And one of them was on the second occasion, I had in theory made contact with the spirit of a young lad called, it was either Eddie or John or both. So I had promised the child that the next time I went there, I'd take them a present. So I went back. What we've been told by the medium was that John or Eddie, they were born around about the turn of the century. So they died as young lads around about 1910, something like that. So I took one of these yesteryear cars in the box that was period, and I put it. It was in the box, and I also put it in a paper bag. And I said, right, John, Neddy, if you'd like this toy, you can have it. I'll leave it for you, and you can play with it. But you need to show me. You need to do something for me, please, to demonstrate that we can see that you're there. Even if it's just rustling the bag, coming across through the radio, anything, just give us a sign. And I had the portal running in the moment. Now, this was a whole sentence that came through.
Wow.
And what came through was, "Don't go in there, man." Strangely, in a patois accent, which was really bizarre. But to get a whole sentence come through that says, "Don't go in there, man," after I've just said, "Go in the bag and have a little play," was quite good. And the other little thing that happened there, which I think Michelle was saying earlier on, our knowledge of the scene has changed so much over the years, and if you like, improved. And certainly I was of the opinion that historically, orbs, light orbs or light anomalies, as we would say, are, every time we saw an orb in a photograph, it had to be paranormal. It had to be evidence.
Oh, look, there's orbs everywhere. Oh, lots of spirit.
Most of the time, it's just dust.
Dust.
It's just dust caught in the lens flare, moisture, possibly insects, that kind of thing. But I did an experiment at the same place, and on the first occasion, I sat, because it's got like a theatre there and a stage, and I sat at the edge of the stage and I said, like, "Eddie, if you're there, please give me a sign. I've got someone who's going to take some photographs, and I'd like you to pose with me. If you can, I'd like you to pose with me. I'd like you to show yourself as a person, if you can, or as a light, the ball of light, anything." Now, bearing in mind, the stages are very dusty environments, with curtains and things like that. And I had a whole series of photographs taken, one after another, and what came through was, I said, "Look, pose with me." And what I had was a bright blue ball of light directly above my head.
Wow.
Really large, with no other orbs in the photograph. Now, this is a dusty environment, so the camera flash should have picked up all sorts of things, but it didn't. I thought, well, that's amazing. That's brilliant. Okay. Next time I went back, I thought, right, okay, let's repeat the experiment. Let's repeat and by this stage, that was the evening I had the "Don't go in there, man" message come through. And I said, right, okay, if you can remember when we did this before, I asked you to pose with me. Can we repeat that, please? Can you show yourself as a ball of light above my head, directly above my head? And that's exactly what came out in the photograph.
Oh my God.
So that was really, really cool. One of the best pieces of evidence that I've caught so far.
If you go to Nigel's Facebook page, look him up, then you've got that as your main photo, haven't you? You've actually got the photo with the orb above it. It's quite a stunning photo, actually. So do check it out if you can. It's very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had so many experiences, haven't we, over the time? So many things.
Do you actually post your
and witnessed and
Yeah, yeah. Nigel was just saying about you food so much. So, do you post your stuff anywhere, or do you just keep it fold away?
We've posted a few things. Nigel's done a few investigations in one of the churchyards in Berkshire, near to where he used to live. And you've put a few of those on YouTube, haven't you?
Yeah.
And that's mainly been using the Negeli Wheel and the portal together, haven't you, for those? Um, so he's posted a few of those on YouTube.
Worcester Mansion.
Worchester Mansion, that's on there as well. The experiment that we did with the Negeli Wheel there. But a lot of the stuff we've kind of kept some of it to ourselves just
Mm,
because I don't know, we're not at that stage yet. We don't want to be sort of overloading
yeah,
stuff and overwhelming people and looking as though we're doing it for any sort of profit making or any fame reasons or anything like that. I think we kind of shied away from that a little bit, didn't we, and
Yeah.
kept it all to ourselves a bit more. And we might do something with it in the future. You know,
yeah,
we've got NGPI going now. We've got quite a few people who've joined our group who are of the same ethos as us. You know, that they want to be in it genuinely to find out what's
yeah,
going on, rather than any money making or fame and fortune side of things. Um, so we're starting to share things with them on the Facebook page as well. Um, and obviously they share things back, which is great. So we all see each other's evidence, you know. So that's evidence sharing is great. Um, so I think we'll stick with that for the time
mm,
being. I think we've also discussed actually writing a book, haven't we? And writing down every venue that
You
we've been to.
you
And
did.
I did, I discussed it. But trying to actually, because we've really not documented things properly. You know, things have happened to us, and we have to keep stopping and thinking and saying, God, well, we'd completely forgotten about that. That happened at
yeah.
that venue. You know, we're getting a bit blasé about it.
So many
We need to
things.
write it all down
You
and
do,
document it. So
yeah.
yeah, who knows?
Yeah,
You
we've been
do
very
know,
lucky, very fortunate.
Yeah, very fortunate.
yeah,
I think we've had quite a few things happen and experienced quite a lot, and it's a privilege to do so.
Mm.
Definitely, yeah.
yeah. And Graham's has come to say, he said, "Have you tried to connect info for living ancestors from these communications?"
Um,
Ooh. Well, we had at at Pluckley in the Black Horse, we had a spirit who was trying to pretend to be my grandfather, and it was the first time I'd seen glass dowsing being done and taken part in, and I was at first I was quite taken aback, and I'm thinking, wow, you know, my granddad's trying to come through. Um, and it would have been easy to have gone down a certain path and believed everything that came through. But I thought, well, I think I'd seen something online or seen a program or something, and it kind of said, well, don't believe everything that comes through. So I had that in my mind at the time,
mm,
and I thought, right, okay, let's just keep a level head on this, and okay, let's ask a few searching questions that only my granddad would know. And I think within two questions, I'd blown this spirit away
Yeah,
and found him out. And then he disappeared.
mm,
The point where I said, you're not my granddad and you're playing games, aren't you? And the answer was yes. No.
mm.
yeah,
So we've not really had enough information through, I think, from other spirit that we've connected with in order to actually do any digging to find out names and dates and that sort of thing, other than the spirit that we had that was shaking the bed in
yeah.
my flat.
Yeah,
Um,
there was the one when at Worcester, which Michelle's alluded to. It's a fascinating place and it's so active. Both times we've been there, so much has happened. We were using, if you haven't seen or used an Negeli wheel before, this comes in two versions, and this is the one which we used on the night, and it's
Okay,
used. It was created by a doctor in Hungary called Negeli, and it was there for measuring bio or chi energy, and depending on the nature that you've got, it will indicate in certain ways. Now we were using this as a yes and no communication tool. So spin yes for left and spin right for no, and that kind of thing. We've taken it a lot further with since then. But we set this up on a particular hallway at the mansion, And very quickly, too quickly actually, we realised that we were actually getting something with intelligence that was manipulating the wheel. So when I was asking, could you please move the wheel to the left? It was moving to the left, and to the right, it's moving to the right. But could you stop? It would stop the wheel. It was doing everything that I asked. And then very quickly, it's kind of, oh, Christ, where's the camera? We need to film this. It caught me unawares completely. So by the time we actually got the camera running, we were well halfway into this session. But we managed to have this person's energy for about 5-10 minutes tops before the energy dissipated and the communication slowed right down. And it seemed to be that managed to get from her that she was an old lady who used to live at the place or the mansion that was nearby, and her role in spirit is to look after the child spirits that are still at the location, which we've heard.
Yes, we've heard them laughing and running about there often.
I believe that they were playing with the wheel on the second time we were there, and they were giving us complete opposite answers to everything that I asked. So they were really mucking about with us. It took quite a while for me to realise and say, look, you're playing games with us, aren't you? Every time I'm asking you to do something for a yes, you're doing a no, and vice versa, and really playing games with us. But yeah, we managed to establish that she wasn't young, she wasn't a child, she wasn't a teenager, she wasn't 20s, 30s, 40s. Was it 50s or 60s? I was saying, are you an older lady? And then we were getting, she didn't want to admit how old she was. But to her, 60s or 70s was really
absolutely.
old, back in the day. So yeah, and then the communication broke down. You only seem to get these spirits for a short period of time. And so you really got to focus in on the questions that you ask to try and get some meat on the bones. If you can easily waste your time by asking, are you the standard? Are you male? Are you female? How old are you? What that kind of thing.
It's interesting, Ray. I'm just looking through the chat here as well, and Keith's saying about, do you get better results after a downpour of rain? Do you know that's something that we need to take into account and we need to look at, because obviously we all know that water is a great conductor of energy, and very often in houses, when you have hauntings in your own place of residence, it very often starts in the bathroom. So we've been told, with the taps turning on and things like that, because water is a conductor. So that's something that we need to bear in mind, Keith. Definitely, we need to document that. And like Graham says, catalogue it. We really need to start doing that properly now. It's got to that stage where we're just forgetting things, which are brilliant bits of evidence, and we're getting a bit blasé about, we had that and that happened there, So we really need to be a bit more serious about documenting it, definitely. So,
yes, you definitely do. And Keith also asked, or he said, it'll be interesting to take along a kill lion camera to an event to see whether they would be interested, see whether spirit would enjoy it.
Yeah. Do you know, Keith, you've read our mind, because we had this conversation about 3 nights ago. I was talking about the fact that I've had Kirlian photography done at various mind, body and spirit events. And, the fact that you get the aura, you see the colours, and that very often my colours have really corresponded to what's going on in my life at that time. So that's, we came up with that idea. And I said tonight, we ought to do this. We ought to try and get a Kirlian camera and take it along to these events and see what we pick up with that, because we use the infrared cameras, don't we? We have the video cameras, we have the stills cameras, so we do everything there. So just having a Kirlian photography camera would really just add another added dimension to it, wouldn't it? We might pick up on things that you just don't see. Thermal image cameras will do the same. Absolutely, Keith, you're right. It's just using this myriad of gadgets. Some will work, some won't. And it's, you just want that one nugget, don't you, that we've talked about, that one thing that suddenly shows up and you think, there it is, that's it, that's the bit of evidence we need to show people and say, there you go, we told you. Make sure you have spare. Graham, you haven't seen Nigel's bag that he takes with him. It's like Poundland in that bag.
I've certainly kept Poundland going on buying that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I hope that's been interesting, seeing some of those bits and hearing what Nigel's got to say on
It's
that.
just the tip of the ocean. I could have brought so much more in
Yeah,
and really bored the pants off you.
Well, no, that's been interesting with which you
That's a
have,
good
and
count now.
you know, and to actually
Nigel,
explain it.
if I can actually get up off the floor. As young as I used to
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, having it explained as well has been really good. Because yeah, you see it and they kind of like go into explanations on TV, but they just kind of like go so really fast that you're kind of like, what?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's it. And they I think they blind you with science a lot of the time as well. So you feel you a little bit stupid sometimes wanting to ask questions, but actually no, do ask questions about these things, because that's the only way you'll find out whether they're genuine or not, as far as I'm concerned. So
Yeah,
we will
yeah, I
keep
think
asking questions.
yeah, and I think Graham's asking how long's your truck trailer now with all the equipment you've got.
Not long enough, Graham. Not long enough.
So, as you know, I do guided meditations, Angelic cards, and each week I like to ask my guests what they would like me to do. So, Michelle, would you like me to do an angel oracle card or a mini guided meditation?
I think I'd like an angel oracle card, Ray, please, if that's okay.
That's okay, because you did miss out last time,
I did.
and that because they cut the show down on us.
They've allowed us to continue today. That's good of them. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you.
They have, and Keith says it's nice to meet two decent people who want to investigate spirit.
Thank you, Keith. That's our ethos. Come along to NDPI and put in a request to join if you'd like to, because we're always on the lookout for people to join in that share that genuine want to find out what's going on and to communicate with spirit respectfully. So yeah, do pop along and see us.
Cool. So, what does Michelle and everyone who's watching this need to know for their highest good? What does Michelle and everyone who's watching this need to know for their highest good? So, perfect.
What have we got?
Absolutely perfect. Discovering truth. You stand in the light of truth.
That couldn't be more apt, could it? That's
It
brilliant.
could not be more apt for that card to actually come out.
Well, I take that as spirit saying they agree and they like what we're doing. So
Yeah,
that's fabulous. Yeah,
yeah,
great. Thank you.
definitely confirmation for you that yeah, you're trying to discover the truth and you're holding the light of truth for that. So that's brilliant.
Absolutely.
And of course, all those watching, whether you're watching now or watching the replay, again, this is saying to you, stand in your own truth. Don't allow other falsehoods to actually dictate your truth. Deep down, what is true. You need to discover that, and you need to step forward and take ownership of that. So that was absolutely brilliant. And Keith says, yeah, it's about that love that they want to share with us.
Yeah.
And Graham says that when he gets to the UK to visit the UK again, he'll pop in.
Well, I hope we'll have a bigger flat by then, Graham, so you don't have to step over boxes with us. Very lovely to see you.
Yeah, it'll be absolutely great. So, Michelle, do you have any last words or thoughts to leave those who are watching?
I think really just to carry on from what we've been saying with the ethos of things, I get cross watching some of the TV shows because the respect for spirit isn't there. You see a lot of them quite macho, bravado, shouting out to spirit, tempting them and saying, "Oh, where are you? Come out! If you're there, show us that you're there." And it annoys us immensely, because at the end of the day, spirit are energies that have been in human form, that have been
Yeah.
people that deserve respect. And I don't see how you can expect them to play the game with you if you're not respectful to them. So that would be my final sort of message to everybody is, yeah, exactly, Keith. Leave the ego behind, do this for genuine reasons and be respectful to spirit, because you know, they're using energy to get through to us. They want to communicate with us. So why be rude? Why be disrespectful to them? I don't
Yeah.
get it. So yeah,
No, no,
respect for spirit.
definitely. Exactly. So I hope everyone that you've enjoyed this and found it insightful, because I know I have, and I've learned an awful lot today. So so Michelle, if people want to connect with you and Nigel, how do they do that?
Well, we've got Nigel's YouTube channel, which you can find if you just look up his name. You've also got the NDPI page. We've got two NDPI pages. One is a company page where we post things about what we're going to be doing, and we just put the odd post on there now and again about interesting things we've seen. And there's also the NDPI page, which is actually No Drama Paranormal Investigations with NDPI in brackets. And we invite people to join us there, or you can put in a request to join, and we can accept people in. But obviously, we need to know that you're there for the right reasons. And then there's my Facebook page as well, with my HR business as well, as if by magic
Yep.
HR services. So if you pop along to there, just message either of us, and you'll know Nigel by the orb photo, the light anomaly above him. So
Yeah,
that's how you
yeah.
know you've got the right person.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll actually, because Keith has asked, can you leave the details with please? And yes, I will. I'll actually post the details into the comment. Oh, and Graham,
Great.
what is Nigel's full name? It's Nigel Wood.
Nigel Wood.
And I will find the link, and I'll put the exact link for you, so you can just literally click on it. And go to it. Although Graham's on YouTube, so he's probably searching for it now. Graham, I seriously love the show. Thank you guys for sharing. I know Spirit also thank you. Hugs, which
Bless you.
is
Thank
nice.
you, Graham. That's lovely.
So thank you, Graham. And Keith says, yep, thank you, muchly, much like love and blessings. Now I don't get involved in paranormal stuff, so
Oh,
you're genuine. So that's
oh,
brilliant.
thank you. That's lovely. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
And Nigel says, thanks, Graham, as well.
He's still in the next room. Yeah.
Yeah, he's still watching, so
Yes. Yes.
that's good. Yeah, Graham says thank you very much, and Sue says very interesting,
Thanks,
and
Suze.
that which is because Sue's picks up spirit as well. Which is which is really great. I know some really cool people. You know, it's amazing that I know all of you people. You know, I just love it. So everyone, I hope you have enjoyed this, and thank you so much for watching. And of course, if you have reached that crossroads in your life and you need help finding your life purpose on getting clear on your path, then I'd love to be that guide for you. So please feel free to reach out and connect with me, and we can arrange a free 20 to 30-minute video call to find out more about each other and whether I can actually help you to discover who you are and where you are going. And I'm very excited to announce that this Thursday, the 1st of July at 7 p.m. UK time, 11 a.m. PST, and 2 p.m. EST, Graham Williamson and myself will be doing a live, well, we'll be here doing live mediumship and angel oracle card readings. So do look out for the links, as this is going to be really interesting and such a fun collaboration, which you can be part of. So yes, do come and check that out. And Nigel says, cheers, Suze. And yep, Graham's looking forward to July 1st. Yep. Misha, if you want to come along.
I'll be there. I shall be watching. I'll put it in my diary, Graham.
Brilliant. Carla, that was very cool. Thank you, Carla, so much for looking. And Keith, yeah, looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to I think it's going to be a brilliant show, and I'm so looking for it. Oh, yep, Nigel has said, yep, you're going to
we'll
be
be there.
Excellent. That's what we like. So again, thank you everyone so much for watching, and I'd like to invite you to share this video, as I'm sure there are more people who'd like to know more about this, you know, who genuinely have an interest in the paranormal and connecting with spirit, and maybe even helping them on their journey to move forward for it. And of course, if you are watching this on YouTube, do hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified of when the show goes live. And as I said, share, share, share. We like sharing. And I look forward to seeing you all same time, same place next week. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Nigel. And thank you to everyone who's contributed and joined in the show today. And
You're welcome. It's been great. Really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Thank you. So all take care. Bye.
Bye.